Oh, here we go. Hopefully this does not get me canceled.
Banned from YouTube?
Here we go.
Compassion. Melanin comes with soul that we call it. We call it soul. We soul brothers and sisters. That's the melanin that connects us.
Right.
So the people that don't have it are a little, and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less. And where the term actually comes from, because I'm bringing it all the way back around to Minister Farrakhan, to where they may not have the compassion or the when they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, when they didn't have the power of the sun, that the sun then started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear. They're acting out of low self-esteem. They're acting out of a deficiency. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
fight or flight,
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people.
Right.
They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric. Because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough, torrential environments. So they're acting as animals.
Right.
So they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages. Melanin.
Oh, wow. What? So the people who have less melanin, so white people, are the true savages.
He said they're less than.
I can actually offer a direct argument to that, but I want to back up for 1 second.
Okay.
If you're talking about anti-Semitism, this is exactly the point that I always raise about the abuse of language and how language has been so completely devalued at this point that you can actually all talk about the same subject and all have a completely different understanding of what the meaning is. Anti-Semitism. What does it mean to be an anti-Semite?
You want to kill the Jews?
No.
You want to see them eradicated?
This is what has been. I'm breaking. I understand what the common meaning of it is, and so when we say anti-Semitism, I obviously go along with the flow and say anti-Semitism means a bias against Jews. But the term Semite, Jews and Arabs together are both Semitic. They come from the same area. So when you say an anti-Semite, technically what you are saying is somebody from that particular ethnic sort of strain. Because ethnically speaking, Jews and Arabs are very, they've lived in the same area forever. And there's all kinds of, I don't want to say they're the same necessarily, but they are, it's sort of like saying somebody who is Caucasian or somebody who is Asian or something like that. Semitic race, they're all Semitic races. They all come from the same sort of basic gene thing. So it's a misnomer to say anti-Semite. I would much prefer anti-Jewish or something like that. But the word anti-Semite has come to mean that. So that's just a nitpick of mine. But when it comes to what I just heard in this clip, it's very easy, just from my view or my understanding of history. And I lived in the third world growing up. I was raised outside of the United States and saw lots of different things. I lived in Europe. I lived in Southeast Asia. I saw all kinds of stuff. And my view is the closer you are to the equator, the air quotes easier life is, in the sense that you have, you don't have to worry about shelter as much. Your arable land is constantly producing. You can you don't, there's all kinds of factors involved which you don't find farther to the extremes of north and south. So when you look at people on the equator, there was, in my opinion, less rapid and less overall sort of progress as far as industrialization and so forth, because the need for it was not necessarily there. It was not an imperative. Now, when you look at the cultures that spanned out and went farther north, you look at Northern Europeans and so forth. Well, why? Obviously, they were more highly developed in general than anywhere else. They became so anyway. Part partially because of colonialization. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, you just went somewhere else and stole it. But the fact is we went somewhere else and were able to steal it. And how did we get to the point where we went somewhere else and stole it? Because when you live in a climate, for instance, and here's where whiteness comes in with time, yeah, you have to say my crops are only going to grow for half the year. I have to plan this. I have to do that. I have to be up at certain hours of the day. I have to develop new technology, which is going to make the ground more workable. I have to know, I have to get into sort of seed stuff. This seed is going to be better than that seed. All of these things, because of the forces impacting you by your environment, which is trying to kill you, I say this glibly, this is hyperbolic completely, but I mean, when you live on the equator, you roll off your palm frond in the morning, you wake up, you pluck a banana, and you go about your day, and you have to worry about getting eaten by a tiger or something like that, and you don't want to get the tsetse fly, stinging you and so forth. But generally speaking, you're not going to freeze to death. You're not going to starve in especially if you're living in a place that is has jungle and so forth. If people live in a desert and you choose to live in a desert, that's on you. But there are plenty of places you can go that have ample food and water supply. But when it comes to say northern cultures and Western culture, what we tend to figure is Western culture now, it grew technologically at the rate that it did and everything because I believe it was impacted by the environment and the need to develop these things. And when you end up having superior development, it's very easy to roll over other people, and that is the history. And certainly, black powder comes from China, and so does spaghetti, and all kinds of other things came from other places in the world. But we became the force that we did because of our superior technology, which all kind of came from having to. So when he says that we're up here and we're closer to animals because we're living in caves and stuff, well, our caves had pools and mini bars and stuff. Again, I'm being silly, but
yeah,
we developed.
Yeah, what
to
he's
a
saying
greater
doesn't even make
degree.
any sense because that's not even like.
And it's completely divisive
No,
to speak
he's
speak in
talking about-
terms of skin color. When you,
Yeah.
it is the
really weird.
it is the absolute epitome of bigotry. Like people sit there and go,
Right.
"You're a bigot," but when you judge somebody, it's like the Biden comment. And even though if he was joking or not, if
You don't vote
if
for
you
me,
can't
you're
tell
not
the
black.
difference between well, he didn't say that. He said if you can't tell the difference between me and Donald Trump, then you're not black. So the insinuation is voting, but he didn't actually technically say that. But to judge somebody's inside on their outside is an incredible disservice.
Mm-hmm.
It shows a lack of understanding of people, lack of willingness to understand people, and you are projecting your own bigotry and expectations on people. You have to judge people on their actions.
Actions, definitely. Yeah.
Color, melanin has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Nothing to do with how good a person is, or how productive they will be.
Right.
And but with all of these divisions that are literally being forced on us, we are being forced to accept that we live in this terrible, terrible place, full of racism and hatred. And I can tell you, having grown up where I grew up and seeing the things that I saw, and knowing that we here are the place everybody wants to be. We have the highest level of people trying to immigrate here, higher than anywhere else in the world. People want to come here because those people understand that this place is an opportunity, and they
Right.
recognize the opportunity when people who have had more opportunity than you could ever imagine compared to the rest of the world sit
Exactly.
there and allow themselves to be indoctrinated into the idea that they themselves are oppressed.
Right.
It is sick. It is sick.
I agree.
And that is what has
No.
been done to these people. And I genuinely feel terrible for these people, as unhappy as they are and as screamy and nasty as they are. It's self-hatred. It is not, they don't hate, the only reason they dislike you is because they can't seem to envision a world where they can be where you are. They figure the only way to make everybody equal is to bring everybody down. they can't understand that equality doesn't necessarily mean everybody's on the exact same level. That's equity. You know, equity and equality are not the same thing.
Right.
So, you know, I believe everybody has a potential, and I believe everybody should have the same opportunity